great. So welcome to the Industry Masterclass, and a big thank you to Trade and Investment Queensland and also Study Queensland for sponsoring this series of workshops. Today's workshop is the first workshop in a series of two. So we have today's workshop is about online delivery for English language teaching, and next week's workshop is about developing resilience and your agility around change. These workshops were set up by Trade and Investment Queensland as a way of offering some professional development to providers of English language teaching, both in the ELICOS sector, in VET, and also in higher ed. It's the start of an ongoing commitment from NIAS to offer more professional development to Queensland providers, and we're very happy to have you join today. So thank you for joining. We will be running this workshop again early next year, and also recording it, so it's available online for you to pass on to colleagues as well if you think they'd be interested in hearing what we have to say today. Part of offering these workshops is also a wonderful initiative by Trade and Investment Queensland in partnership with NIAS to actually offer support for getting your courses, your online courses, endorsed by NIAS. And I think this is a very bold initiative from Trade and Investment Queensland to develop the capacity and the skill sets of providers in Queensland to go through the endorsement process with NIAS and have your online courses endorsed. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the endorsement process, but also about some research that NIAS has done for online delivery, looking at some of the expectations and feedback from students who have experienced online delivery this year, and also from teachers as well. I have in the room with me Catherine Alston from the University of Sydney Centre for English Teaching, and Jared Mallow from E2 Language. They are not Queensland providers, but they're joining us today to share their experiences about going through the online endorsement process and some of the experiences they've had with online delivery this year. So thank you for joining, Jared and Catherine. I really appreciate your support for this workshop. I also have Ben Colthorpe, my colleague from NIAS headquarters, who's helping out with the IT side. So if you have any questions that you want to ask, you can just either, because we're such a small group, jump right in and ask the question, or pop it into the chat room, and Ben will make sure we get to answering your questions before the end of the session. So are you all good to go? Okay, good to go. Let's start. So I think almost everyone in the workshop today is a member of NIAS already. So you would already know about our endorsement process. You'd know about some of our activities, our professional development and online activities. Everything is on the website. So if you miss something from this workshop, feel free to go to the website and check out the resources that we have there. We have all of our standards online, including our standard for online delivery, and that all of those standards and principles and drivers and resources are all available for you, whether you're endorsed by NIAS or not. So check out the website. We also have professional development and short courses available too on the website. So go and have a look there and see our refreshed website. Even if you are a member, you might not have seen some of the new things that we've been adding over the last 6 months onto our website. Welcome, Donna. Thanks for joining. Good to see you again. Part of the standards in our experience with online delivery with NIAS is the fact that we benchmark our standards globally with a consortium called Quaylin. So NIAS is a member of Quaylin. We have counterparts, quality assurance agencies, who are our counterparts in Canada, in the States, in the UK, Malta, South Africa, and New Zealand. And every year we meet and actually benchmark our sets of standards that we have with NIAS in Australia against their standards. So we know that we have a great set of standards here in Australia, and we're also very proud of the Australian environment that we have. NIAS works very closely, as the independent quality assurance specialist with the regulators, USQA and TEXA, and we also work closely with the peak bodies, English Australia and IEAA. This is a very, I think, strong and high quality environment in Australia. And we know when we benchmark ourselves against other regions that we have something really special going on here in Australia. So if you're endorsed by NIAS, that's fantastic. But if you'd like to also take the opportunity to move further with getting your online courses endorsed by NIAS, you can know that it's endorsed against a global benchmark. So that's a little bit of the blurb about NIAS. With regards to this workshop, look, the aim of this workshop in talking through with Trade Investment Queensland was really to share some experience of the NIAS members with going through the endorsement process for their online courses. Also looking at sharing some of our research that we've done earlier this year that explores the differences between expectations of students in their online experience and the perceptions of the teachers. So I'm going to be sharing some research with you on that. We'll have a little bit of an explore on some of the feedback and some of the learnings that we've gained from endorsing a whole range of different online courses with our providers. So I'll share you some of the best practice from that. And then there'll be a chance to actually talk about how the endorsement process and the subsidy for endorsing your programs in Queensland are supported by TIQ and NIAS. But first, I'm really interested to hear from you. We've got like a number of participants here in the workshop today, but I'm just going to run a quick poll, and I'd like you to choose which of these you identify mostly with. Are you an English teacher? Are you a student? Are you a business owner, support staff, or a government employee? So I'm just going to launch the poll, and if you can take a moment to choose which of these you best identify with. Okay, we'll leave the poll open. Nearly everyone's voted. I think we've got one more person to jump in and vote. If you haven't voted already, can you just reach out and click one of those? Okay, and we'll close the polling. So we've got majority English teachers in the room and a couple of business owners and some support staff. So that's good. I think everyone has a slightly different perspective on online delivery. So I think we've got a good range of participants to kind of share and get some discussion going around your perceptions and experiences with online delivery. Another quick poll. What's your main objective for this webinar? So I'm going to open up the poll and we're going to have a look at what's your main objective? Are you here to learn new techniques for online teaching? Are you here to check out what's happening in Australia and ASEAN with regards to quality assurance? You want to connect with other people, learn about ways to engage, or get your online courses endorsed for free? Oh, good. We've got at least one person who's interested in the online endorsement. Awesome. Okay, a couple more people to vote. And we'll share the results. Okay, so yeah, good. Many of you are interested in what's happening with quality assurance with online English language teaching in Australia and ASEAN. A couple of people here to learn some new techniques. So I hope you can achieve that. And one person to look at their online endorsement for free. Awesome. Ben, would you just admit Jacqueline into the room, please? Thank you. Okay, so interestingly, there has been a number of NIAS centres that have been endorsed and gone through the endorsement process for their online courses. We have E2 Language, Holmes Glen, RMIT University in Vietnam, ELSIS in Sydney, Scots in Sydney, ELS in Malaysia, and Melbourne Language Centre. These providers have undertaken the quality assurance for their online courses using the NIAS online delivery standards. So NIAS designed a set of standards 2 years ago, and we've been endorsing online courses for a couple of years now. And little did we know that this year there would be a massive shift to emergency remote teaching, and the majority of the sector would start to deliver their courses online. So we've been in the game for a couple of years now and have been developing and refining our standards for online delivery since we first started, actually with Jared with E2 Language. So E2 Language is one of the first fully online endorsed centres. Was the first with NIAS and in Australia, and has really contributed to inputting into the standards and refining the standards over the last couple of years. University of Sydney joined us with getting their Mooc Specializations endorsed under the banner of our online premium products. So we also have a set of standards for premium products that providers are offering. And these are products that are very original. They have a strong series of research and evidence behind them. And they're really looked at creating an awesome user experience. So there's two opportunities for Queensland providers that are supported by Trade and Investment Queensland and NIAS to get endorsed with your online activities. One is to go for getting a premium product endorsed. So if, for example, like Explore English, if you have a student support mechanism that's fully online and you think it's a unique and original product, you can actually go through the premium product endorsement with NIAS and get that endorsed as part of this offering. Or if, like some of our other providers, you've got online courses that you've decided to continue delivering online, you can go through the process and get those endorsed against our online delivery standards. So two sets of standards that you can use depending on really what your aim is and what type of course you're offering and how you've gone about designing the course or the product. So all of the information again is on the website, and I'm going to drill down into the standards and how they work within the NIAS quality assurance framework. So our framework is very student centered. It's all around the student experience. So the standards were designed 30 years ago. They were designed when NIAS was created by English Australia at the time, because there was a need to actually have an independent, separate, expert quality assurance specialist to actually look at ensuring that all of the providers at the time were adhering to a minimum set of standards. Since then, we've revised and added different components to the quality assurance framework, including welfare for under 18s, online delivery. We've also recently included standards around products and services, standards for education agents, and standards for ELT professionals. So there's a whole framework there of which the standards for online delivery are a subset, but also when we look at online delivery and look at endorsing online programs, we make sure that we look at other areas of the framework that are relevant as well. So for example, some of the teaching, learning and assessment standards, the standards that look at the curriculum and look at the syllabus, are utilised when we endorse an online program. We also look at promotion and student recruitment as part of looking at online delivery, and also of course at staff training and strategy, risk and governance elements as well. So it's a very holistic framework of which online delivery is, a component. I guess if you kind of want to look at it like it's like a hospital analogy, you've got all components of the hospital, but you have the patients, which are the students, and that's first and foremost where NIAS has its priority with the standards. But then, of course, you have the doctors and the nurses, i.e. the teachers, you have the hospital, i.e. the school, and then you have the, the environment and the sector as well. So it's a very holistic approach and one that, we've developed over the 30 years. If you choose to go through the endorsement process with us, there's a series of steps that you take, and this is very similar to our looking at endorsement of our other areas. There's a document review. If you haven't been fully endorsed by NIAS as a centre, we would need to go through that process and look at your premises and your platform. But then the new additions that we've added this year, looking at online delivery and also our virtual support. Incidentally, NIAS has gone completely online as well. We do all of our self-assessment is done online. Our health checks are new. We've added those. They are completed online. Our virtual quality review visits are done online, and also a lot of our professional development is being converted online. So there's a cycle that we follow when we go through the endorsement process, and this is the process that we would follow if you weren't endorsed by NIAS. If you're already endorsed as a centre, then the process for getting your additional courses, online courses endorsed is much more streamlined and a lot quicker. The process that you'd follow is we'd ask you to do some health checks and some surveys with your students who are in the online courses and with the teachers. We would then analyse those surveys and perhaps require some more documentation. We'd certainly look at the platform that you're using and look at the user experience, and then we'd be able to write up a report and some recommendations for your endorsement from there. So it's certainly a very streamlined process if you're already endorsed as a centre by NIAS. So I'm interested to hear your situation and which situation best describes your organisation's experience with online English language programs. Did you transform to English language as soon as COVID occurred, but you intend to resume completely face-to-face? Did you transform to online English language courses during COVID and you'll continue to offer online fully in the future? Or are you thinking of some type of hybrid or combination activity or mix? Or do you not offer any online courses? So I'm just going to open the third poll, and I'd like to see the experience of people in the room. Okay, so we've got here the majority of people are talking about actually offering a hybrid and a combination of online and face-to-face, and that's great. So our intention with looking at online delivery, and just kind of this is very, very important to note, is we're not proposing that everything should go online. We're not proposing that the face-to-face element should disappear. We think the face-to-face element and the way things have been working in Australia under the national standards is really contributed and added to the perception of quality for Australian international education. But we are concerned that there is a space that's unregulated for online delivery, and this is a space that NIAS would really, really like to contribute to. So we've been contributing to this over the last couple of years with development of our online standards, and also we have now a growing number of providers who are going through the endorsement process and getting their online courses endorsed by NIAS. We hope to be in a position, early next year to mid next year to be able to advise and contribute to the discussion on how online delivery should be viewed in Australia when we come out of COVID and we start to look at how delivery would be regulated by the regulators. So as you know, ASCA and TEXA have paused on their regulation until the 1st of July next year. And, we've really been in this space throughout COVID, helping providers to go through the process and get their courses endorsed, knowing full well that, this is not currently recognised under the national standards, but we really hope to be in a position to have some very kind of healthy conversation around our experiences and our providers' experiences with online delivery when we come around to the discussion middle of next year around how do we start to regulate this and how do we start to look at this within our 20 hours face-to-face requirements and also our teacher-student ratios of 1 to 18 inside the standards. So currently, just to make clear, online delivery is not regulated. It's not part of the national standards. It's currently delivered outside of the standards, but we've all been given a bit of a leeway until the 30th of June to experiment and to develop capacity. And I think we're going to be in a really good position come 30th of June to show some best practice and some really concrete experience with maintaining that high quality that Australia is known for, but being able to do that in a hybrid manner and utilize some of that 20 hours with online delivery. So that's the intention, and we're really happy with the kind of process so far. What we did earlier this year is we ran a series of health checks with more than 100 centres and more than 200 students across Australia and in Southeast Asia. We designed a set of questions which are available on our website, which you can use as health checks for your students and for your teachers. And we undertook a series of comparisons between what students were feeling about their online experience and what teachers were perceiving or experiencing with their online delivery. We analysed across 4 main areas and 28 drivers, and this really kind of has started to allow us to review and refine the standards and learn from the experience of our providers who are delivering online. So the standards, the 4 key areas that are used by the NIAS quality assurance and quality endorsement for online delivery are really focused around 4 key areas. One area is the design of the online delivery. One area is the assessment. A third area are the resources and technology support. And a fourth area is having an integrated reporting system. So these are the key principles. There's 4 key principles in this area, and underneath each of those principles are 7 to 8 drivers. And these drivers cover all different aspects of each of the key principles. So within the design area, we're really, when we're looking at delivery of online English language courses, we're looking to make sure that the navigation is intuitive. It's got to be logically sequenced, very well signposted. These are important for the design of your online delivery, whether you're using an LMS or whether you're using a bespoke platform or whether you're using a combination of Zoom and Google Hangouts. Whatever you're using, you need to make sure the navigation is intuitive and logical. Things need to be visually pleasing. The design needs to be good to look at, and the layout should be consistent and really aesthetically pleasing for the participant. It's a good idea, or it's important to have your courses looking at accessibility standards, bearing in mind that you've got students who might have vision impairments or hearing impairments. So it's good to use a piece of software or a platform that takes into account accessibility standards. It's good to also make sure the teacher's maintaining an online presence throughout the actual program by regularly posting updates or announcements. And we believe it's important to have a single location for those announcements as well, and news and events, so students know where to go to get the current information about their program. And also to maintain learner motivation, it's really important to have a range of learning tools in the design process. So that's the drivers around the design part. With regards to the assessment part, we've got some key learnings from our providers around how learning and assessment strategies should be made appropriate to online delivery. And you need to do things differently than as you were doing it in a face-to-face program, and for a whole bunch of reasons. It's important to have courses that have variety in assessment and also variety in the tasks. It's really important that the instructional language that you're using is appropriate to the level of the participants. And also it's important to ensure that the content that you're choosing and that you're distributing in the online course is selected to ensure inclusivity and looks at ensuring different cultures and different learning styles are catered for in the online course. We believe it's important that oral skills development is continued to be included, and this really has to be by some type of face-to-face activity, whether you're using face-to-face through Zoom or WebEx or one of the Google Meets, one of those other platforms, or whether you're using a hybrid model and having the face-to-face conducted on site. We believe it's important to continue with the face-to-face elements inside your program. And we also think it's important to make sure that you're distributing the learning in small bite-sized pieces, and this also goes for the assessment. You can go a long way with breaking up your assessment into small pieces, providing automated feedback for as much of that assessment as possible, and this way you're ensuring that you're engaging students and you're not giving them Zoom fatigue by spending too much time lecturing. We also think with regards to assessment, it's important to have a really strong set of templates and rubrics. Students are saying they want scaffolding, they need more scaffolding, so it's important to make sure that assessment is transparent, there's clear samples for assessment, very strong rubrics, and the tasks are scaffolded towards the assessment in an appropriate way. So that's assessment, and we've had a lot of learnings over the last 6 months as people have gone into emergency remote teaching, and then out of that we're having now providers that are choosing to use hybrid models and take on board their learnings from the last 6 months. People are coming up with some fantastic and innovative stuff for resources and tech support. We're hearing from our providers who've been delivering online that it's important to make sure, of course, that the online courses work across all devices. Thanks, Ben. We've just had Olivia join us, if you can let her in. So it's important to make sure the devices are working. It's important to ensure that not just the learning tasks are scaffolded, but also the technology is scaffolded. We think it's important to have a single sign-on and also to ensure that there's a help desk or a strong point of reference for students if they need help. And then our fourth area and learnings from our providers, and this is included in the standards, is about ensuring that courses are supported by an integrated reporting system. Now, this can be your LMS, or it can be another platform that you've developed, or it can be a simple series of Excel spreadsheets, but depends on the volume that you have and the cost that you want to incur. But it's important to have a good reporting system and make sure that you have very clear and explicit orientation and socialization activities, and that students are given clear and explicit information about how much time it's going to take them to do the activities. And also it's important to make sure that the instructor response time, how long it's going to take for the instructor or the help desk to get back to the students, that's clearly stated as well. You've heard of Netiquette, of course, and it's important too to make very clear and explicit to students your expectations around behaviour in the online environments, and that there's really strong links to other support services. So this is our set of standards in a nutshell, and we collect evidence against these standards, and our health checks ask questions to students and teachers against these standards. Now, what we discovered when we looked at our surveys of over 200 students and more than 100 teachers was there is a strong gap or strong difference between what the teachers think the experience is and what the students are actually experiencing. And this is how I guess this is the DNA of NEAS. This is how our stakeholder-driven feedback model actually works across all of our endorsement areas. Is we look at what students are saying, we look at what teachers are saying, and we look at what the centre or the professional staff are saying, and we triangulate that information. And where the triangulation reveals a strong or a big gap, that is deemed by us as an area for improvement, and we report on that, and we let the provider who's going through the endorsement process know about that area and suggestions for improving that area. However, where there's a small gap, i.e. there's synergy between what the stakeholders are saying, then we believe that to be a strength. So that's, I guess, in essence, what the DNA of the NIAS quality assurance process is about. It's about stakeholder feedback and about triangulating that feedback. And we apply that same principle to online delivery. With the drivers with online delivery, you can see some of the smaller gaps between the experience of the teachers and the experience of the students refer to areas around content being linked to assessment activities, and students and teachers are loving the automated feedback. So the more assessment items that you can do with instant and automated feedback, the better, with from the perception of the student and the teacher. Of course, you can't do everything with automated feedback, but the more that you can do and the more frequently you can do it, the better. Students are also reporting that they're happy with the technical skills and the technology. So this is great because, when we started with the emergency remote teaching at the beginning of COVID, there was a massive upskill and a steep learning curve for everybody. But we're really happy to report that both teachers and students are getting used to the technology and starting to really use it to their advantage. And finally, another strength for online delivery is students love the self-assessment activities and the peer assessment activities, but they really need them to be scaffolded with strong rubrics and templates. So these are the positive things, and I think the positive opportunities that are occurring with online delivery in Australia with the NIAS providers. However, the most misaligned drivers, so the biggest gap, this is where there's a really strong difference between the stakeholder perceptions, are around learner motivation and maintaining the learner motivation. And it's important to continue to have a range of learning skills so people don't get fatigued with things like Zoom and using the same tool the whole time. There's also a large gap between students' expectations and their perception around how much time is required to actually complete the activities. So the more information that you can give students about the expectations on their input, the better. And finally, there's still a large gap around development of oral skills. So this is something that's been kind of dropped, and is really good to be mindful of in your design of online delivery, ensuring that there continues to be real-time face-to-face video interaction. So that's what our research revealed. And we also have a little bit of feedback from our providers on their experiences with their online delivery, which I'd like to share with you now as well. So this is just a bit of a kind of collection of some of our online providers' experiences. Some of these I know you're already doing, but some might be new to you. This is things that we've seen in our providers who are delivering online English language teaching. There's some really good work around incentivizing and gamifying things, so ensuring that cameras are on as much as possible with the face-to-face activities, and incentivizing this through points or rewards is something that we've seen being done that I think is a really cool idea, and really making sure that we're counteracting the Zoom fatigue by building in intentional time for socialization in the programs. Slow down, take time out of the syllabus to have fun, do stretches, engage with students like you might engage with them in a face-to-face environment. Look at really different types of engagement. We've seen some great work around using art forms and using virtual tours, task-related activities, problem-solving activities inside the online programs, so it doesn't just become a full lecture from the teacher. And really looking at getting community and guest speakers on board to spice up the 20 hours. Some great work we've seen done, which is throwing students in the deep end from the beginning. So rather than using your standard classroom process of introducing grammar and introducing functional vocabulary and then building up to some type of role play or group activity, we've seen some great work of people flipping that around, throwing students in the deep end and then building and scaffolding on their strengths and weaknesses. Some other great stuff we've seen is facilitate interaction every 3 to 5 minutes, and really look at trying to use diverse presentation skills like online chat and breakout rooms, things I'm sure you're very familiar with Zoom already. Bringing in agents into the program and getting agents involved in some of the orientation activities, and really looking at collaboration with students using other software such as Padlet is some great stuff that we've seen with our providers. So I'm going to open it up for some discussion now, and I'd love to hear from people in the room about their experience with online delivery so far. So if you can pop on all your videos, and I'm just going to get you to pop on your videos and tune in with your audio. So thank you again for joining, and as I mentioned, I have Jared and Catherine with me here in the room, and we're going to kind of kick off the discussion by talking to them with some focus questions. And then I'd like to share and open up these focus questions to other people in the room and hear about your experience so far with online delivery. So this question, I guess, goes out to Jared to start. So Jared, you were the first to get fully endorsed online, and I think E2 Language has been really leading the space with your online test prep programs. What's the message you'd like to give to someone who wants to teach online but has little online teaching experience?
Sure. First of all, hello everyone. Okay, so the way that I did it, we started preparing people for the OET test about 6 years ago, I think, maybe 4 years ago. And it was just pure, just jumping in and doing it. I think we started off on Skype, and I guess it was a bit of a mess. And then we sort of slowly worked out what's going on. And then over the last 4 years, I think I can't tell you how many tutorials and live classes we've delivered, but it's in the tens of thousands now. So we have a lot of experience. There's a few things. One, if you're coming from a classroom, first of all, you need to reset your expectations about what works in a classroom compared to what works in an online virtual environment, because they're quite different. You might be a whiz at just sort of creating things on the fly in the classroom. One thing that you really can't do in an online environment is teach on the fly. I think content is really key here. I think having a really good resources but ready to go will help you to deliver much better classes, obviously. And the way that you create your resources is really critical, because one of the things that you do sort of lose is interactivity and peer type of stuff. So you need to sort of create your resources so it's got that sort of stuff embedded into it. Another thing is you need to be familiar with the technology, obviously, because one of the things that at the beginning, the technology is going to feel like an encumbrance. But the more that you get familiar with the tools, like Zoom, for example, the easier it becomes, and the less sort of frustrating it becomes for students as well. One thing you need to think about is the sort of format that you're teaching. Are you teaching one-on-ones? Are you teaching small group classes? Are you teaching one-to-many webinar style? Because each of those different formats, let's say on Zoom or whatever VoIP service you use, you need to sort of change your presentation style with each of those formats. For example, if you're giving a webinar, it's very much you need to make a sort of engaging, fun lecture style with lots of high tempo, etc. Whereas if you're doing a one-on-one, it's very much personalized, where you want to be focusing in on a student's particular piece of writing. So it's very different. A few little things would be just production quality. This isn't a great example here, but you do want to have good lighting, good camera. It doesn't cost much to fix your production quality. But I think one of the key things, if you want to improve your online teaching, is to record yourself, which is very easy to do in a virtual environment, and watch yourself back. We get our teachers to do that. We get our teachers to record themselves, send them their recordings through to us. We give them commentary, but for them, it's key to watch themselves back, because you sort of eliminate all the obnoxious things that you do as a teacher that you weren't aware of, and just slowly over time you get better. But having said all that, I think you just need to jump in and start teaching, work out what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think a comment, Jared, on something that we've discussed that I think was a real strength of your programs from the very beginning was you insisted from the very beginning in having a face-to-face element to your online delivery, and you know, this was way before COVID. Can you kind of share why you came to that conclusion to keep the face-to-face component, and kind of how that works within the context of the rest of your program?
Yeah. Okay. So if you look at any sort of learning management system or online teaching and learning platform, there's sort of three main actors. There's an administrative sort of side where you log in and you look at reports and your student enrollments, etc. You've got your student login where, you know, typically things are being done around self-study. And then you've got a teacher login. What I think has been really neglected in LMSs is that teacher login. We believe that, and this is just obvious, that teachers are the drivers of education. You know, in the classroom, it's the teacher who walks in, tells the students what to do, gets them going. Nobody would do their homework unless the teacher was going to check it the next day, or I certainly wouldn't have. So, you know, this idea of sort of self-study, I very few people will do that. And that's why retention rates or completion rates are so low when you have a course that's just purely self-study. As soon as you insert a teacher in there with a live class who sets expectations for what needs to be done, all of a sudden you have much better participation, completion rates, etc. So, you know, keeping that teacher as the driver is critical.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, no, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's great. I want to direct the next question. Where do you think the ELT community will be in 12 months' time to Catherine from University of Sydney?
Thanks, Patrick, and hi, everyone. Yeah, well, I mean, 2020's taught us a lot about what we can do online, and it's also accelerated, I think, our collective knowledge and experience about teaching and learning online. And over the last 10 months, we've achieved as an industry in online learning what we may have otherwise accomplished in 5 or more years. So it's been a pretty amazing journey in that sense. The massive jump in knowledge and skills and expertise is something that we can't, and I hope we don't want to wind back. And we're doing things now that prior to this year, we never would have thought possible. For example, at the beginning of the year, I can remember us thinking, oh, there's no way we can do our high stakes assessments online and have a high level of academic integrity, but we were forced to, so we found a way. So it's been quite amazing in that sense. The experience has also highlighted the benefits and opportunities inherent to online learning. And students, and we actually end up using this in our promotional material, they can study English from the comfort of their own home. And whilst doing so, they can save money on travel, accommodation, etc. True, it's not an immersive language learning experience, and it lacks the benefit of being situated in a new cultural environment. But nonetheless, I think we have seen the advantages for students and actually staff as well in delivering fully online, where we may have not recognised those advantages in the past. So when we talk about the ELT community, what we'll be doing, what it'll be like in the next 12 months, I think we might see a trend towards offshore delivery, increased offshore delivery. And for example, in the pathways space, we might, for example, see the first 10 or 20 weeks of a course, students doing it offshore, and then with the final, just say 15, 10 or 15 or 5 weeks being onshore just before they start at the university or start semester. In terms of onshore delivery, I think we'll see an increased expectation and demand from the market for blended and more flexible delivery. So I don't think we're going to go back to a situation where students maybe are content to do 20 hours face to face. They will have experienced different of delivery, and I think they're going to expect an increased blended component. They're going to expect higher quality online materials and engagement. And they may also expect more flexibility with how we deliver, even if they're onshore. They may like being able to take the Friday off, attend class from wherever they are, in the bus or, their holiday destination for the weekend on a Friday and attend face-to-face the other days, for example. And then even being onshore and paying for, paying to be here, we might then see providers really trying to emphasize what it means to be face-to-face. Why would you pay all this money to come here? So we might also see a shift then in the face-to-face kind of immersive experience and really highlighting the value and you need to make it attractive for students to spend all this money to come here actually in that environment. But it'll also be interesting to see how the regulators respond in terms of will they modify the 20 hours face-to-face requirement in order to sort of meet the demands of the market.
And now, Kat, I know you were involved in the design of the Mooc Specializations, which is the premium product from University of Sydney Centre for English Teaching. And I know that was an extremely large project involving a whole bunch of different pieces, designers, teachers, curriculum writers. From that experience, do you have any learnings for, a provider that's thinking about designing from scratch, a completely new online series of courses that involves a whole series of moving parts? What are some of your learnings from that process?
Good question, Patrick. I think, when you, and the MOOCs were designed for sort of self-access, self-paced learning with minimum tutor or lecturer or teacher involvement. So when you're designing for that kind of space, you need to make sure everything is very structured, instructions are explicit, everything's very consistent in terms of the way you number and name your modules and your learning outcomes. You have to make it completely self-contained, because students can't, they don't have the opportunity to say, I don't understand what's going on here, teacher, help me, kind of thing. So you really need to work hard at that. Also in terms of, making consistent the style guides, for example, to guide that. So not only do the instructions and the sort of structure of how it's delivered need to be consistent, but so too do all the way that the materials are presented, etc. And I'd also echo what Jared said about the investing enough to make sure that your video materials particularly are of high quality, but also really thinking about how are you going to engage students through that video, space. How are you going to get the presenters to deliver it in a way that's engaging, So that's really important. Also, how long are the videos? Do you have a transcript with them? Do you insert questions that pop up throughout the video in order to try and make it more interactive for students? Because obviously in the online space, and particularly with a self-access, self-paced kind of thing, there's the danger of it being very just sort of transmission sort of learning in that sense, and not having really any active learning. So you really sort of have to work hard in order to generate that more student-centered or sort of more interactive approach as well.
And Jared, what do you think can be done better or only online for English language teaching?
One of the key things is scale. So, a classroom's limited by the number of seats it has. Obviously, the internet's this massive network and you can reach humongous numbers of people, which we've actually managed to do through our test prep website. About 3 months ago, we educated our millionth student. So scale's exciting. And I think when you're thinking about sort of offshore delivery, maybe you could think well beyond sort of the normal number of students that you educate. I think another part which is done really well online or better is reporting for teachers. If you get those reporting metrics right, so when students are completing formative assessments and summative assessments or practice questions, etc., the teacher can just pull up a report card on a student. It might be disaggregated data so they can see precisely vocabulary levels, grammar, speaking, etc., just with the click of a button. I know as a classroom teacher, I really was just sort of guessing at, this student's level and this student's level. I really had no idea. So that sort of data collection and reporting is really cool. On the student side with the data, what's really interesting is sort of personalization of learning. A student might come in and take a diagnostic test, for example. That diagnostic test will then guide them into which particular level they need to be in. And then let's say they're taking a particular course, or let's say they're going into a speaking course, a pronunciation course, and their first language is Arabic. And so the material that they will see will be personalized for L1 speakers of Arabic. So curation of material is really interesting. And I think assessment, I guess what Kat said, it's like, I guess at the beginning, it was quite a big fear about how do people assess online. But even the high stakes English tests did this quite radical pivot. IELTS, OET, TOEFL, or delivering their assessments online at home. You can take TOEFL at home. Obviously, there's some security risks there, and they've sort of found out ways to get around that. But again, the computer will be collecting all of that information. If you have the markers, will be logging in to mark the assessments, etc. So all of that is really well organized. So yeah, I think eventually, good online systems will be far more precise at collecting all that data, but it still is going to require that teacher no matter what, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. You think the teacher's still kind of, the key component to it, which is great to hear. We're not all out of jobs, which is awesome.
No.
Okay, and last question to Kat, and then we'll begin to kind of wrap up with some information about how to go through the endorsement process. Kat, what do you think are the barriers for teaching English online?
So here I'm probably just referring to this year, and we've been delivering all our classes on Zoom with Canvas, the learning management system, supporting that. So the main challenges I think this year reported from teachers has been just engaging students to participate in the online classrooms. They have been reticent sometimes to turn their cameras on, and then teachers have expressed a lot of dissatisfaction with the craft of teaching because they sort of say it's like teaching into a void. They're used to getting all this kind of on the spot, just in time feedback through verbal or non-verbal means from their students, and building rapport with them as well. And I think a lot of teachers have actually found it really difficult in the online space to get that kind of sense of satisfaction and that feedback and participation from students. So I think that's been a challenge. There have also, though, been a lot of really positive participation from students as well, but that's been a sort of challenge, I think. Also, as Jared said before, the sort of challenge in implementing active participatory and student-centered learning in the online environment. Coming from the English language industry, we're all about the communicative language approach. And then you're faced with this Zoom platform where it does tend to sort of corral the kind of interaction into, one person speaks at one time. You can't really have multiple people all chatting at one time. You can put people in breakout rooms, but then, it's more sort of segmented off as well. So just sort of adjusting to that. Then in a really practical way, we've had sort of a lot of concerns from staff around WHS issues about, you know, concerning long periods of time spent on the computer. So, and that's also mental health and physical well-being. And that's, I think that is a really big consideration, particularly if we're adhering to the 4 hours a day, which we are at the Centre for English Teaching. Staff have found it quite difficult. In the online space, you've got the workload associated with ensuring that the teaching materials, including the LMS, are ready for the online space. And that goes back to what I was saying with the MOOCs. Just when you're purely in the online space, that need to really, the materials have to speak for themselves a lot more than there's a lot more give in the face-to-face classroom in that sense, and a lot of ability for students just to jump in and ask questions, etc. And then we've got the whole assessment issue, ensuring integrity, and how do you do that? But I won't go into that now because that's another whole conversation, I think.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Kat and Jared for that. So just to end up today, just instructions on how to become endorsed with your online courses with NIAS. So as I mentioned, thanks to the generous support of Trade and Investment Queensland and Study Queensland, all Queensland providers are entitled to get their online courses endorsed by NIAS, and for this to be fully subsidised by Trade and Investment Queensland. This is available until the 30th of June next year. So, you know, if you're interested in participating in this, you know, the value of each course is normally $1,020. So it's quite a healthy supplement from your government, and it would be great to see more Queensland providers join in getting their online courses endorsed by NIAS. And as you can see, there are providers and a strong momentum in New South Wales and Victoria for providers doing this, and also overseas with the NIAS endorsed centres in the ASEAN region. So we'd love for more Queensland providers to go through this process. Information on how to do this is all available online. You can just apply for the online endorsement and go through the process and request a invoice to be sent to you, and then from our end we tick that off with Trade and Investment Queensland, and we'll issue you a $0 invoice, and you can start the process. We've got a little bit of time for a few questions, so I just want to open it up to questions from anyone in the room. You're more than welcome to contact us directly and follow up with questions afterwards. But do any of you have a question you'd like to ask to either myself or Jared or Catherine? Daryl, do you have a question? You've gone unmuted there.
Okay. My question is, we also have TESOL, and we're exploring doing virtual practicum with TESOL.
Mm-hmm.
Would this offer here, would that also apply to working with NIAS to look at our TESOL practicum to try to come up with a really effective way of doing that?
I think now's the time to start exploring that possibility.
Right.
If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have said we insist on a face-to-face practicum as part of the requirements, and we still currently do. But, you know, as I mentioned, the regulators are going to be open to changes, I'm sure, next year. And, you know, NIAS has, like the regulators, has to follow the pace of the sector. And if this is something that, you know, is gaining traction and something that, you know, is people are asking for and the sector is asking for, then we'd be open to exploring that possibility. Certainly, there's nothing stopping you from getting it endorsed for online delivery to start with. You can always offer it. Whether that would be accepted by the regulator and by NIAS as a requirement for the face-to-face practicum is, of course, something that we need to, you know, work on and negotiate with, but nothing stopping you from designing it and delivering it. And then, you know, as this is a free offering, I would, you know, jump at the chance to utilize the subsidy from TIQ to do it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Well, look, thank you for joining. Thanks, Danielle, Daryl, and Donna for joining. Thanks, Kat and Jared for sharing your experience with the online delivery. This will be available online on our LMS. So we'll be sharing with you and sharing with other Queensland providers this recording, and then we'll be also running the workshops again next year. So please spread the news and look out for some of our comms on future courses. Happy if you can attend next week's course as well. It's looking a little bit more at the management side of things and how to deal with teams and deal with moving groups through quick and rapid change. So I hope you can join next week. But if not, have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thanks for joining today, and thanks for participating in the workshop. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.